The 2023 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro hybrid version blends electric torque with old school toughness. Putting out 437 horsepower made it to a slick 10-speed transmission. That cutting edge technology, it doesn't maintain itself. If you want smooth shifting, long transmission life, and performance you can count on for the long haul, fluid maintenance is non-negotiable in my book. Today, I'm walking you through a full transmission fluid service on this Toyota Tundra hybrid, step by step. You'll see the exact fluid to use, the right fill procedure, bypassing the oil cooler thermostat, and common mistakes that can cost you money. It's one of the most overlooked services on this truck. Let's make sure it doesn't become a major expense for you. Stick around. This isn't just a fluid change. This is how you protect your investment the right way. Before we get started on this project, we need to address the elephant in the room. When I pop the hood here and I want to check the transmission fluid, there's no way that's happening from under here. There is no dipstick tube. Everything needs to happen from underneath. If you've watched my transmission fluid service video on the Toyota Camry, it's the same type of setup. This one's a little more complicated. We're going to dig right in. Here I am underneath the transmission. Now this is where we can check the fluid. I want to point out a couple of features on here so you know what we're talking about once we get into the meat of this video. Underneath here, we've got, this is the drain plug, and inside, underneath this drain plug is where the overflow check tube is. That'll have to be removed as well. On this side over here, we've got the fill plug. This is where we're going to remove that, install our filling tool, and pump the fluid into. And then over here, we've got the transmission oil cooler thermostat assembly. This is the item that we're going to need to bypass when we do the fluid check on here. First thing I want to do on this job, so I want to remove the fill plug. It's a 14 millimeter here on the side of the transmission. We'll set this off to the side. That's what it looks like. And then I want to remove the drain plug. So keep in mind, guys, when we're here, we're not going to be able to drain all the fluid just by removing this. This gives us access to the overflow tube, which is inside the transmission. Some fluid will come out. Don't forget your gasket on there. And you can already start to see the condition of this fluid. Almost 30,000 miles, and not so bad. I'm going to let this drain for a moment, and then I have to get back in here again and take the overflow tube out. You could start to take it out now, but it's just going to make a bigger mess. But guys, I always like to take a little sample of the fluid that's coming out of here. I've got in the middle of this dish here these two trays filled with brand new Toyota WS fluid, and then the fluid that we removed from this vehicle just now. You can see the difference in color in it already. It's already starting to build up some debris and things in the fluid. And I see no reason, even though Toyota says lifetime of the transmission fluid, or at least not till 100,000 plus on severe duty occasions, I see no reason to leave this fluid in here any longer than 30,000 miles. All right, now that I've let most of that fluid drain out from removing the drain plug, I'm going to remove the overflow tube here. This is just a plastic tube, same 6 millimeter socket. And just be extra careful with this. We don't want to break it. It's threaded pretty deep up in there. There you go. You can see it starting to come out. Now I've got it loose, and I'm just going to drop it quickly and dump this fluid out. So now you can see the fluid is really flowing a lot faster than it was before because we're no longer restricted by the diameter of this tube. So if you see this little yellow piece, it's all plastic. You can see the inside diameter of it there. And this tube is designed to thread up into the pan, and all the fluid sits in this level. So from the base of this thing, the base of the pan really, to the top of this overflow tube. And what we're going to do later is we're going to run this vehicle. We're going to let this fluid circulate through the system with the thermostat propped open, the bypass on it propped open at the proper temperature, and we're going to let some fluid just spill over the top of this and trickle out the bottom of this drain pan. That's part of how we're going to check this. I'll explain it again when we get to that point. For now, we just need to let this thing drain completely. We're going to put this back in here in a minute. We'll fill it back up. All right, I'm ready to put this overflow check tube back in and just wipe the surface down a little bit. I'll install this on my socket. And we're just going to nice and gently thread this back in. Okay? We're going to run this all the way up until it stops. You want to go all the way till it stops. The torque spec on here is 15 inch-pounds. It's very light. So we're gonna run this thing all the way up, okay? Just hit the stop, and that's all I wanna do, okay? I don't expect you to have an inch-pound torque wrench, but just don't make it tight. You see I'm not even using the ratchet, right? That's about all we wanna do on that. That is tight enough. Now we need to fill the transmission. So the next step in this process, now that we've got the overflow tube stuck back in there and snugged up, we need this special service tool. It's called a paper clip. This is a jumbo paper clip. It's fairly large. It's not the smallest size, and I'll usually bend them out like this because what we need to do is we need to bypass this transmission oil cooler thermostat. There's a little button on the end of the thermostat. I'm going to depress it with this, and then I need to slide this pin through. There's a hole in the bottom and a hole in the top. We're gonna go in the bottom, we're gonna press this in, and then we're gonna push this up past the tip of that thermostat where it's bypassing and into the other end of the housing. There's two holes we got to get through, top and bottom, and this pin is going to keep that bypass from popping back out. Now, we need to bypass this open because this transmission is not going to get up to temperature. We have to check the fluid temperature on here below 119 degrees Fahrenheit, which is basically just slightly past ambient air temperature. In the shop today, I think we're running about 60, 65 degrees. We're not going to be a whole lot hotter than that. So these things really need to be close to cold, just off a startup, a cold start. That's about the optimum fluid temperature range. If you just drove this thing in from California or wherever you're coming from, and you think you're going to check the fluid on here, you're going to have to wait a couple hours because it's going to be way too hot. So let's go ahead and let me show you how to bypass the oil cooler thermostat on here. So if you see this hole here, I'm going to press the tip of this in. And now you're supposed to push this in about 5.5 to 7 millimeters. We'll go through the bottom hole, and then we need to go also through the top hole. Okay, so I'm all the way in now, and you can see the tip of my paper clip is all the way up here. Okay, I'm going to bend it a little bit so you can see it. Okay, right up here is where the tip of the paper clip is. Now our thermostat has been bypassed. We don't have to have it at operating temperature for that thermostat to open, and this fluid will circulate through the cooler and through the transmission completely. If you guys have seen my other Toyota Camry transmission service video, you'll know that I'm a big fan of this tool made by MightyVac. This is just a fluid filling device. All it does is allow us to fill it up, pump it up, and force that fluid through this hose and into our little fill hole that we've got on the side of this transmission. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill this up. This vehicle calls for Toyota WS transmission fluid. There's other suitable options out there. If you wanted to go with a full synthetic, I'm sure you could do that. Ineos and Motul and all these other companies make great products. So as long as you find something that fits the manufacturer's specifications for Toyota WS, you should be good to go. You may want to do a full flush on it if you're going to be exchanging only half the fluid. But let's go ahead and fill this tank up. This thing only holds about 4.5 quarts, and I'm not exactly sure how much we're going to be able to get in here at one time. So we're going to fill this up, and I'll show you how to fill the transmission. This transmission filling tool that I have has several adapters for it. All we're really going to need is this adapter that has a 90 degree or so, maybe a little past 90 degree elbow on here. And we're going to hook this in that hole. And then I also need to come down here and put some pressure in the canister. I've got it full of Toyota WS transmission fluid. This is supposed to take 6.7 quarts with a drain and fill is what the instructions say. Now, the way they want you to do it, they want you to fill this until fluid starts to come out of the overflow tube. Okay, that's probably going to get, 4 or 5 quarts in there, I would imagine. And then they want you to put the rest of the 6.7 quarts in there and put the drain plug back in. Let's see how this works, and we'll see how close it is when we go to check the fluid level. All right, we're going in the hole here. We're going to let that hang, and then I'm going to allow this fluid to flow. There's a little valve on here that I've opened. This valve allows me to open or close this flow from the pressurized tank. Now, this will take a couple minutes for us to get our full. I've got about 4.5 to 4.7 quarts in this thing. That's all it really holds. We'll see what comes out of this overflow tube. All right, guys, I've got about 3.5 to 4 quarts of fluid in this right now, and it's already starting to come out the overflow tube. So now it's time for me to install the drain plug in the bottom of the pan. And I know this says it takes 6.7 quarts total with the transmission drain and fill according to the instructions in the chart. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to start a little bit less and see how much we really need to fill this all the way. Okay, we don't need to torque this yet because we're going to have to check it out again to check the fluid. Now we're inside the vehicle. We need to check the fluid level on here, and there's a very particular procedure to do this. So what it involves is first beginning with a cold vehicle. We need to make sure this vehicle has not been driven recently. We've got to have the fluid temperature somewhere between 99 degrees Fahrenheit and 109 degrees Fahrenheit. So that basically means just off a cold engine, maybe warmed up only for a few minutes, okay? So we don't have a huge window to mess with this. We can't, fool around too long and then we end up overheating the thing and we got to wait for it to cool down again. So anywhere over 109 degrees, we've got to let the car sit till the transmission fluid temperature drops down. Keep in mind, we've got the oil cooler thermostat bypassed right now, so the fluid can fully circulate through the oil cooler. This should give us the accurate fluid level. Now, the procedure is going to be as prescribed. I'm going to talk to you about it real quick, then we're going to perform it. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the vehicle on. We'll go from park to reverse to neutral to drive, waiting 3 seconds in each of those positions, and then back to park. Then we're ready to perform this crazy shifting procedure. We're going to take it, we're going to go down to drive, and then we're going to go neutral drive, neutral drive, neutral drive, neutral drive. No more than 1.5 seconds in each of those positions at any time for up to 12 seconds, okay? So this is going to take a little bit of time. Once it does that, the D light on the dashboard is going to illuminate for a couple of seconds, okay? Once it does that, it should go out and then either come back on, stay out, or start flashing, okay? If the light stays out, it means the fluid temperature is below 99 degrees. We need to let it warm up a little bit. Once the temperature is between 99 degrees and 109 degrees Fahrenheit, the D light will illuminate and stay on. Once the temperature exceeds 109 degrees Fahrenheit, that D light will begin to flash on us. Okay, so if we're flashing, the engine, or I should say the transmission temperature is just too high. We need to let it cool down again. If the D light doesn't come on at all, that's better actually, because we can let it warm up a minute or two, and then once the D light lights up solid, we're ready to check the fluid level. Now you guys got to work quick on this, okay? You can't fool around. So we're going to go ahead and get right to this procedure. I've got it filming here for you. I'm showing what the cluster looks like. I want to show you what I'm doing with the shifter, and I'll try to explain it again as I go through it. Okay, here's the process. We need to follow this to a T. We're going to foot on the brake. We're going to press the start button so it says ready on the dashboard. We need to move the shifter from park to reverse. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. To neutral, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. To drive, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. Back to park. Now we have to go back to drive and neutral rapidly. No more than 1.5 seconds in each selection. So we're going drive, neutral, drive, neutral, drive, neutral. Now you need to continue this process. There it goes. So my light is flashed. I'm going to put it in park. Okay, now my D light is on. I need to quickly hop out of the vehicle and check the fluid level. Let's do it. We need to remove the drain plug so we can see what comes out of the overflow tube. Okay, so there you see. We've got a steady stream coming out. There's a couple of choices here. If you have a steady stream, you need to wait until only drips come out. Okay? We don't want a steady stream, we want just drips, as long as we're at the correct fluid temperature. Keep in mind we've got the cooler bypassed on here. So we're waiting for a steady drip. Once we get that, we're going to put this drain plug back in. We don't need any more fluid. Now, I want to remind you guys, I put 5.5 quarts in this transmission, okay? It says it takes 6.7 with a drain and fill. So obviously it doesn't take that much. We're a little bit less here. And my concern is always if you put too much in, you don't have a lot of time to check this fluid before the transmission fluid heats up. So I don't like to put too much and I don't like to put too little. I started with 5.5 on here and it looks like maybe it's losing about 1/2 quart by the time we're done. So maybe 5 is the correct level here for this. But I think if you go 6.7, you're probably going to be a little bit overfilled and waiting a long time for this fluid to drain out the overflow tube until you only see drips. Okay, we're getting close now. You can see it starting to sputter and splatter a little bit. It means we're almost where we need to be. Now, hopefully at this point, you've got your new drain plug gasket. Make sure you put a new one on here to avoid leaks. Make sure your drain plug is clean. And then we're just going to reinstall this. And keep in mind, we've already torqued down that overflow tube, hopefully to 15 inch-pounds. So we're just about where we want to go until it's just dripping. We're getting close. And keep in mind, the whole time we're waiting here, this transmission's operating and the fluid temperature is heating up. So we really want to make sure we're as close as possible when we start this procedure. You don't get 2 tries at it without waiting a long period in between. Now, the other thing I want to remind you guys, as soon as this starts to slow down like it is, we're starting to get those drips now. This is where I want to be. See how we've got, you want it so it just barely drips. As this fluid heats up, it's going to continue to come out because the fluid's going to expand. So don't wait for it to stop completely. That's not the right time. Okay? We're going to reinstall that temporarily. We're going to install our fill plug. Then I'm going to let the vehicle down and shut it off so we can come back and clean up our mess and torque down those plugs. All right, I've got my torque wrench set to 30 foot-pounds, and we're going to tighten up both this overflow plug okay. There's 30 foot-pounds, and then we're going to do the same with the fill plug. Let's torque that fill plug, 30 foot-pounds. Just going to take a little bit of my brake cleaner, and I want to just clean up a little around my fill plugs. Make sure nothing loose around here, no loose drops that are going to make me think I've got a leak somewhere. And nothing on the pan that grease and oil is going to stick to, make me think something's leaking down the road here. So everything's torqued up. And then the last step here, I've got to remove the clip from the bypass. Let's go ahead and pull the pin here from this thermostat bypass. And you can see that piece is protruding again at the tip, and we're good to go. I just wanted to reiterate, now that we're wrapping up this fluid level check, everything's topped up and we're pretty much done with this service. There's a couple of conditions that are going to exist. You know, we talked a little bit about this before, but if you've got a steady stream coming out, we have to wait for it to be drips only or drops only coming out. If you have no fluid coming out, well, you obviously have to fill the transmission. So that means you need to add some more fluid. Now, is it a half a quart, a quart? Who knows? Depends on your vehicle, depends on how much fluid it's going to take and how much you start it with, right? So that's why I said before I like to start with 5.5 quarts. You see I had to drain a little bit. If I had started with 4.5 quarts, I probably would have had to add, you know, at least a half a quart or more. So just try to get in the range somewhere where you think you're going to be in the middle of whatever the full level is at 6.7 quarts and, you know, a minimum base level, no less than 4 quarts for sure to get started. So for me, I thought 5.5 worked out quite good. I didn't have to add any more. We could just kind of wait a minute or two for it to drain, all that steady stream to flow to drops only, and then we could button it up before our fluid temperature got too hot. I wanted to make a note on here. I know some of you have watched that other video I did for the Camry transmission fluid service where we had to jump out the OBD2 connector with jumper wire between the two terminals on there to activate the TC terminal. That helped us get this thing into fluid detection mode and to idle speed control mode. There's nothing outlined in the procedure on this particular vehicle that says we have to jump those connectors out. Now, I did include one more bonus feature for you on here of what it looks like with a scan tool. So I went ahead and recorded that for you. I wanted to show you what the settings might look like on a scan tool. It's not the Toyota factory scan tool. We're using our other pro level scan tool by Autel. It has the same features on it where you can activate the TC terminal and check the fluid temperature right through the tool. But keep in mind, you still got to do the shift procedure. Check it out. All right, guys, I wanted to show you what it looks like on a scan tool. I had a lot of questions the last time that we did a transmission fluid service on a Toyota about how to use the scan tool with that. And there's two parts to it. You need to activate the TC terminal or the TC test, and then we also need to check the transmission fluid temperature. Now, of course, you're still going to have to go through the shifting procedure here in order to complete the process, but I'm just going to walk you through it real quick. So we're in active tests, and we have to go through here and find the activate TC terminal on here. So you can see there's a lot of options as I scroll through this. Okay, so now on our display, we have the activate TC terminal. We can command it on and off, and then also we have the automatic transmission temperature on there, and we've got the TC terminal displaying, showing us it's been commanded on and off. So now that we've activated this TC terminal, you see it says off. We're going to activate it to on. We're going to perform the shifting procedure. We have to go from park to reverse. We want to go 3 seconds in each gear. So 1, 2, 3 to neutral, 1, 2, 3 to drive, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to go shifting back and forth no more than 1.5 seconds in each gear until we get this dashboard to illuminate the way we need it. It's going to turn the D light on for us for momentarily, and it's going to flash. Okay, there it goes. And then we're going to put it in park. Now we're in park, and you can see the D light is on. Okay, so it's going to momentarily light up for a couple of seconds, and then it's going to do one of three things. We're either going to be flashing, which we are now. We're going to go solid D light on, or we're going to have no D light at all. Now keep in mind, this vehicle is in park right now, if you can see that. So, if you look over at our scan tool, we've got the fluid temperatures at 135 degrees. This is well outside and above the range that they want you to check the fluid at. So right now, this is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It's letting you know, because the D light is flashing, letting you know that we're over temperature. We need to let this vehicle cool down to ambient temperature and then try the procedure again. Okay, so you can see that the process is very similar to what you do with a scan tool versus without, and the scan tool is really not even that necessary. So this is certainly something you guys can handle at home, and you don't need to spend a bunch of money on a fancy scan tool. Well, there you have it, guys. I've given you all the tips and tricks I've got for performing the transmission service on this Tundra. It's a pretty unique procedure. You don't see it on too many cars, and it's a little bit tricky to get precise, but with a little bit of practice, I'm sure you can do it. Go ahead and practice that shifting procedure maybe the day before you want to do your service. Make sure you understand exactly how it works so you're not fumbling and fooling around the day you're trying to get the fluid temperature correct. It might be easier to do it the day before. This way you know exactly what you're doing. I hope you guys are enjoying this type of content. We want to make your life easier. We want you guys to be able to perform some of these services on yourself. You take this to the dealer, they're going to charge you well over $500, I promise you. You take it to our shop, it's going to be somewhere close to that as well. So if you can handle this on your own, go ahead and give it a try. There's nothing in here that requires any special tools. Okay, I mean, you got the factory scan tool, great. I doubt you do. If you have an advanced scan tool, great. But if not, you don't need anything. So don't feel scared to go out there and give it a try. I also wanted to let you know we're going to be releasing another video. I went ahead and filmed already some of the services on here for the four-wheel drive components. We'll be doing the rear differential, front differential, and the transfer case. So if you guys are interested in that on your Tundra, go ahead and check us back out in a few weeks. We're going to release that video shortly after this one. And right now, if you need to get a fix on another transmission fluid, I've released a video already over here. I'm going to pop up for you. It's a 2018 Toyota Camry transmission service, which is very similar to this one. A couple of caveats: no thermostat for the oil cooler. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, ring the bell for notifications. This way you get the new content when we release it every week. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for following.